Dancing with uncertainty. Ah, what in the world does that mean? Uncertain. But we're going to dance with it today. We have some ideas, we have some notions, and we've got some assertion that, our body, when we're feeling uncertain and we're feeling, and the anxiety starts to build, that our body stops moving. It actually, like, there's a mini freeze and can even go into a full blown freeze. And so this concept of dancing, which is essentially allowing your body to move, is is going to be something that allows you to feel more of your calm, more of your confidence, more what's real for you, and even what's certain now. So I'm Rick from Thriving Now. I'm here with Kathy Bartuli from Thriving Now and the Intimacy Dojo, and with you all that are here live and those of you that are going to be on the recording. Thank you for being with us. This is, I feel, a really interesting and useful skill to have.
Yes, I think it's I love the fact you're diving in and looking at this because a lot of people are afraid of the topic of uncertainty. They run away from it and then they never get any concepts. They're just kind of like avoiding. And humans are really good. We're really good at avoiding things that we think are dangerous or uncomfortable. We may not even be aware of how much we're avoiding. I did that. I had a big shock to my system before COVID, and then COVID hit, and I didn't realize. Now I'm suddenly realizing how much I was avoiding anything that would remind me of that situation. And I didn't even, it was subconscious. I wasn't even thinking about it. And healthy humans, humans that are not too traumatized, we generally crave a balance of uncertainty and certainty. If everything is very regulated, we get very bored and we start acting badly. Um, and there's some countries, like I lived in Sweden for a year. I loved Sweden, but it was very, very safe. And they thought that was one of the reasons the suicide rates were so high, is because everything was there wasn't a lot of room to grow very big or you kind of like, everything was very cushioned. And it was a beautiful country. I love the people. And it did feel like, there wasn't risk ever. There wasn't uncertainty. And I do think we need a certain amount. But as Rick was saying, if we're traumatized or we were talking about this before the call too, so I'm trying to remember how much he said. If we're undernourished, we've just had a big stress, we haven't had enough sleep, or we don't feel supported, or if we're traumatized, we have unhealed traumas, we are going to crave certainty more. Just think about if you lived out in the wilderness and you had a cave that was pretty safe and you were feeling low resourced, you wouldn't want to go hiking 20 miles to go find something new. You're only going to stick to what's tried and true. So we kind of crave the known, the secure when we have lower resources. It's really natural. There's nothing wrong. And we can actually use that as an indicator light. If your friend's like, let's go do this fun thing that's new, and maybe you've been wanting to do it, and that day you're feeling like, oh, I don't want to go. I sometimes will ask myself, are there resources I need? Do I need to just say, I'll go, but I need to get some food first? Or I'll go, but I want to make sure that I know where the car is and I have the car keys and that you'll agree to leave if I need to leave. I can weave in some certainty in my new experience. And that indicator light can be really helpful. It's a great way to kind of take care of ourselves when our subconscious may be hiding the fact that we're feeling insecure.
You reflected something there. I really want to amplify. Um, where are the keys? Ah, I've got the keys. Where's where's the phone? What are my agreements with the people that I'm going with? So today was the first time we went back to ecstatic dance, and it was outside, and it was in a different place than we've ever gone before. And you know, yesterday evening, even looking at the weather report, it was uncertain. And this morning, waking up, and it was kind of foggy and like, uncertain. So, as these things go, I noticed that if I tried to make things that were not under anyone's control, um, certain, my body would do something. It would stop. Now, what I could do is do some things to help create structure. So I believe that part of our desire for things that are certain has to do with things that are reliable, and have a quality of that there's a fallback position. So by talking to my family that, hey, I'm uncertain how I'm going to feel at the dance, and I would like to know that if I need to leave, either to spend time by myself in the car or something else, or for us all to go, is that okay? And my partner said, well, yeah, I would like the same structure, the same agreement. So agreements are a kind of structure. And I was like, ah. And as soon as I had that, there was a physiological movement that came in. And this is part of the real skill part of it. There's a lot of things that we as human animals do that isn't conscious. We just sort of do them. But the problem with that is that when we stop doing them, we start feeling distress, but we're not exactly sure why. And so the first clue that I'd like to again remind is that if you're in a place where the level of uncertainty is high enough, and maybe you're wanting to like anchor things that really are uncertain. The weather is a perfect example. Your own energy, how you'll sleep that night, how your body will feel, how, all the things that there's, if you notice what your body does, the first thing that we use EFT tapping, if you're unfamiliar with it, we're not teaching it today, but we have a couple of resources at thrivingnow.com/tapping that you can look at. One of the things that we do with tapping is notice what's happening in our body. So if uncertainty is a thing for you, like, oh, I want to be in control, I want things to be certain. If a part of you is crying out for that, craving it, grasping for it, like me, then that's an indicator like, oh, what in my body has stopped moving. And that's where we're going to be exploring today in this workshop little things that you can do, micro steps, baby steps, mindful things that return your body to a place where you're, instead of moving toward more and more freeze and anxiety, you're dancing it looser. So you've got your breath, you've got your mind, heart, legs, and all of that. And some of that can be just knowing where the keys are.
Yes. And someone asked, like, how do you know that person? How do you trust the person will leave when you want to leave? And I've had that issue. People I didn't know as well, or I have a couple friends that, not Rick, but other friends that are like, of course we'll leave when you want to leave. And then they disappear, or they, oh, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. So, depending on my need in that day, and I think we can all like kind of, how scary does this feel? How many safeguards do I feel like I need to put in? I try to make sure that I have control. I keep the keys. I will give you a 5 minute warning, and then I'm going to just leave, and you can Uber back if you need to, or you can call me later and see if I'm available to come get you. But I want to be in control of my own exit strategy. Now, with someone like Rick, I wouldn't need to. I would say, please just, if you get distracted, please let me know where you're going off to, because I know he's going to be there for me if I need him. So we can weave in, depending on the person and the experience we're going to, safeguards. And like Rick said, we can't control the weather, but it can calm our survival brain a lot if we have, oh, I don't know what kind of food they're going to have there. I'm going to pack some granola bars and some water. What things can I do to ease my survival brain so that it can relax? And maybe I'm carrying a little bit more than I would like. And I also know that will let me enjoy the experience. And then maybe next time I don't need to have so much resources with me.
So I'm going to invite us. Kathy's just been talking about like, maybe I've got unreliable people in my world that I make agreements with, or I have that experience in my past. What happens in your body? Are you feeling like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can pack that. Or is there any kind of resistance? The chat is open if you'd like to share, but you don't have to. Um, I'd like to do just some tapping on just the dynamics of uncertainty with others and weather. And if you notice that if you tune into an uncertainty, where does it hit you? Like I have clients where their legs seem to go away, like they don't have legs anymore. Um, for me, I my breathing absolutely changes. Like you could probably tell my voice is a little shallow, like I'm still talking, but it doesn't have any doesn't have any depth to it.
And shallow breathing is very common if we're scared. We want to hyperoxygenate. We breathe in the top part of our lungs quickly. So, and that's a biofeedback loop to our body. So if we can breathe down to our belly, make our belly move a little bit, that actually can calm us, and it might help bring some of the resonance back to Rick's voice.
Mm-hmm. I feel it in my gut and shoulders. Sometimes I go into anger. I feel sweaty and feel shaky and a knot in my stomach. Yeah, you'll have maybe some variation from situation to situation. And for a lot of people, there's an 80% of the time when like uncertainty hits me here.
And someone
Even though
shared this in
uncertainty, then we're going to do some tapping. We invite you to tap along because it's movement, little dance. Even though uncertainty hits me right there.
Even though uncertainty hits me right there.
And I'm uncertain what to do with it.
And I'm uncertain what to do with it.
Very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
And a part of me leaps to trying to make it certain.
And a part of me leaps to try to make it certain.
And I deeply and completely accept that part of me.
And I deeply and completely accept that part of me.
Top of the head. Uncertainty hits me right there.
Uncertainty hits me right there.
Eyebrow. Uncertainty hits me right there.
Uncertainty hits me right there.
Under the eye. It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Under the eye. I don't like that feeling.
I don't like that feeling.
Under the nose. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to get back in control.
I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to get back in control.
And I'm pretty sure I need to be certain.
I'm pretty sure I need to be certain.
I need to be certain, don't I?
I need to be certain, don't I?
A part of me thinks I need to be certain.
A part of me thinks I need to be certain.
That sweet part of me.
That sweet part of me.
Wants to be certain about everything.
Wants to be certain about everything.
Including the weather.
Including the weather.
Eyebrow. Including people.
Including people.
Yeah, including my own digestive system.
Including my own digestive system.
Yeah, it wants to be certain about everything.
It wants to be certain about everything.
That would relieve the tension.
That would relieve the tension.
And I believe that would relieve the tension.
I think that would relieve the tension.
Although it hasn't really worked out also. It hasn't really worked out that well.
It hasn't really worked out that well.
The truth is I'm looking for a different kind of skill.
The truth is I'm looking for a different kind of skill.
I'm wondering how resilience might play in here.
I wonder how resilience might play in here.
So after you've done some tapping is a movement. Notice your body. Allow it. I'm making big movements here. You don't have to make big movements. But see as you scan, like is your jaw locked or your eyes a little softer maybe? How's your throat and neck? Your breathing? Like my breathing is better. Of course, that tapping was a lot for me, as you could tell. As you feel into your body, as you go down your body, like I notice some holding in my belly. I don't know what it means, but I'm noticing that it's not really moving very much. And I'm noticing that there's some pulling in and some kind of reaction.
Yeah, someone's called it a retreat feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you like to do some tapping on the retreat feeling?
Yeah. And I'd like to weave in, if it's okay for folks, if this resonates, you can weave it in, you don't have to. A lot of times we get this fear of uncertainty when we're very little. I imagine most of us didn't get quite the resources we needed when we were kids. Our parents might have been overwhelmed or traumatized. So little children will see that they're not getting what they need. They need certainty. They need to know their parents are there. They know that instinctually they're hyena food if they're not supported. So if they aren't getting the care and the certainty they need as small children, it can be very scary. So if you can weave in just a little compassion for that, karate chop, even though part of me wants to hide and retreat.
Even though part of me wants to hide and retreat because
And
I feel certain.
I feel so uncertain about this.
I feel so uncertain about this.
And it feels like it really matters.
And it feels like it really matters.
I offer comfort to my younger self,
I offer comfort to my younger self,
who is really trying to get needs met.
who's really trying to get needs met.
Top of the head, sometimes things were really uncertain.
Sometimes things were really doesn't capture it.
Yeah.
Grotesquely uncertain.
I know. I wasn't sure that if there was enough of anything for me.
I wasn't sure if there was enough of anything for me.
Side of the eye, except criticism, there seemed to be enough of that.
There seemed to be enough criticism or neglect.
Under the eye, but I wanted love and reassurance and food.
I wanted love and reassurance and food and choice.
Under the nose, I didn't get a lot of that.
I didn't get a lot of that.
Chin, and I let my younger self know.
And I let my younger self know.
Colorblind, I can provide a lot of those things now.
I can provide a lot of those things now.
Under the arm, that old uncertainty feels awful.
The old uncertainty feels awful.
Top of the head, and with mindful, caring presence,
with mindful, caring presence,
I can start healing it right now.
I can start healing it right now.
Just take a breath and just notice how you're feeling. One of the things that I really love, and someone I work with sometimes calls it split screen, is if I can separate old stuff from new current stuff. Because a lot of times we're just in this pot of soup and everything's bubbling and boiling and it's like all these emotions. And when I can recognize, probably a lot of times for me, it's like 80 or 90% of it's old soup, old stuff. And I can just like, it's not actually happening right now. And there is something happening right now, maybe 10%, 20. Sometimes it's more. There could be something big happening right now. But when I can separate that, it gives me more control because the stuff that's old is not happening right now. It's just reminding me of that insecurity. The stuff that's happening now, I can take action about. I can do more about it often, or I can find ways to comfort myself now. So just if the split screen, if that helps you, just the more we work at that, the more we can discern, I think this is not about now. This is not about what's happening now, and this is, so I can try to take care of myself in a different way.
Like my belly started moving. And I invite us again to pause and check in with a scan. And you can use your hand dancing with uncertainty can be as like this, I'm kind of giving a soft squeeze. And I notice when I do that, like my breathing stops for a moment. So I might squeeze a little tighter, stretch my jaw.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I thought there's some beautiful comments in the chat about people feeling trapped. If there's no exit strategy they can make about being on a plane, the cabin doors are closed now. I don't want to trigger anyone, but we're also kind of trapped on this planet for most of us, unless you have several $1 million that you want to spend to try to go up to SpaceX. And I can make myself feel very claustrophobic about the fact I'm trapped on the planet. I'm like, can't get off. What I can do is bring, one of the things that we're going to talk about a little more later is, but bringing things into the smaller things I can control. So what happens often is people are laughing at me. Let me off. No, but I totally get the plane thing. I can get very upset about like, oh, I can't control what I do. Like, and now they're making me wear a mask, and I feel claustrophobic, and I can't breathe. What can I do right now? So anytime we're starting, we tend to want to control further and further out. That's especially if we're feeling insecure. If we get a little control, we want to expand it more and more and more. And so what I try to do is when I'm in a feeling trapped in a plane or an office meeting where they block the door and I can't get out, what can I control? And one of the things that people recommend for traumas is making small movements that we can control. When we start getting really scared, we can go into collapse, submit. We can go into freeze, where we're just like we feel like we can't move. And Rick's been talking a lot about dancing with this and moving. If we're really triggered, it may feel impossible. And almost always, someone can move their eyes. Like even if it's just a little, can you glance a little to the side? Can you blink? Almost always, unless we're in really deep collapse, submit, kind of really traumatized, we can move a little bit. We can move our pinky. We can notice our breath coming in and out. And I have in the past, when I was younger, I would hyperventilate a lot. And I was always really scared that I was going to die because it felt like I wasn't getting enough oxygen. And I was really relieved to hear that, oh, when people hyperventilate, what happens is if they go too far, if they can't stop it with a paper bag or whatever, the worst thing that happens is they pass out and fall over and they breathe normally again. So like there's not like there's our body has safety mechanisms in there. So like if I can bring being on a plane or my meetings, often there's too many people for the meeting room and we're all like kind of crunched together and I can't get to the door. What can I control right now? Can I take a sip of water? Can I move my finger? Can I notice there's enough oxygen right here? And can I notice that if I really, really needed to, I can make a huge fuss and either crawl over the table or under the table and get out. But right, like in a plane, that's a little harder, but there is like, I can move a little bit. I can go to the restroom if I need to. I can put the tray up and down if we're not in takeoff. Like, what do I have control over? Brings it back to that smaller, if we shrink it spatially and time-wise into like smaller things, we have more control often. We have more certainty. And that can help us get through tough times or times where we don't feel like we can move or do as much.
So, when one of our circle members posted a dance video, and it was just amazing to watch it. These people moving with, you know, synchronicity and all of the beauty of dancers who really move that way. And what I'd like to reflect on is, as Kathy said, if you're feeling like uncertainty is starting to pull you out of the now, and people have brought up the airplane. I think the airplane is one of the biggest challenges because if you are living in your primitive brain and the primitive brain has a lot of control, you're probably one of the survivors from you're one of the reasons we're here. Thank you very much. Your ancestors were really good at picking up and reacting to possible threats and doing so like with a lot of energy. Um, uh, if we take it out of the context that we're actually in a space capsule on top of a rocket or in an airplane, and we look at like how uncertainty pulls us out, we can see a story, and all of a sudden our energy is literally moving into the future. We're not embodied anymore. We're fantasizing, projecting ourselves to some other thing that's not now. And I was a master. I still can do this. Like if I do, my body starts to do things that you'd call like, whoa, what's happening to you, Rick? And one of the reasons it's called thriving now and not let's all get thriving, it's about right here, right now. So if I see something about a world event or a trend, a mega trend or something else, even ones I like have a shadow side to it, to use that term. If I start going there, like I, 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 I actually lose my ability to speak. And that was just a little taste of, of going in one direction there. Like you see, it's pretty dramatic for me. Because it's dramatic for me, I need to stay in the now. I want to notice when I start going in that direction, and what happens in my body. And that's where dancing with uncertainty is like, oh, yeah, I'm uncertain about that. And right now, I have hands. Now, if you just look at, if you like this idea, look at your hands and then look at the palms and look at the back of the hands. And oh, they're wrists.
Get yourself
There's an
back in
elbow. Oh, I got two elbows. I taught my daughter about her elbows. She likes pointing at elbows now.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, I even have things that I don't see very well, like a nose. And now I'm more embodied. And this is the idea of dancing with, is to bring yourself back to an embodied place where it's not, tapping is a ritual, that's great. That can be enough. For me, I also notice that I can sort of dissociate and tap too if it's just me. But if I'm noticing and bringing myself back into, this, like if you can and it's comfortable, like grab a shoulder and just and give it a squeeze and notice that maybe your jaw unwinds a little bit. Did you know your shoulder muscles are attached to your jaw? That's not in the song. Ah, and um, this is one of the biggest challenges I had, with things that are just talking. That's why we like to do some tapping in here too.
I
Go
think
ahead.
when you're talking about controlling the future, we tend to go further and further out. And like if I want to make sure this plant lives, it's very important to me. I'm making up a story, but like my mom gave it to me or whatever, it's really important. Right now it looks pretty healthy and I can water it. But if I want to make sure it's still there, I want to be certain of its health. A week from now, I have to worry about, well, the movers are coming with a new washer and dryer. Oh, I better move it then. And what if I move it and it doesn't like the light? And there's like the further out, the more decision points come. What if I move houses? What if I move to the East Coast where it's cold? Oh my, like we can we're trying to deal with problems we don't even have yet. We go further and further out. And a lot of humans it's really natural when we feel insecure, we'll do things like we'll manipulate or try to control either people or our environment. Um, we do a lot of pretending. I'm very good at pretending and pre-planning, trying to anticipate needs. And there are certain things that are really useful around that. Like I'm planning for my retirement, but I don't have to worry about it constantly and feel like I have to hold on to it and steer it. And I do think that often when I feel very insecure, I'm trying to control people, not only what choices they make, but like how they say things. I want to have a certain experience to feel safe. And that doesn't feel good because I can't create that in other people. And so I start feeling the more I try, actually people rebel often if you try to make them do certain things. So the more we try to
No.
control, the
What are
less
you talking about?
the less certain we may be. Yeah. Try telling a deer to do certain things and it
Yeah,
won't work.
it's pretty innate. We don't like to be controlled. Someone mentioned the difference between command and control. Command, having your own agency. Um, the word command is sort of like for me, and and this is what we can notice about ourselves, that there's certain energy behind things, and for other people are like their orientation is like, oh, well, I can be in command of myself much more. I can create certainty, not perfect certainty. Um, but as soon as I start trying to get out into that realm where I'm trying to control people, the weather, other people's reaction, like that's a really powerful one. Is I even people that love us, we do not know how they're going to respond when they wake up, when you send them an email. And that's where dancing with the uncertainty to me is like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm really wanting it to go a certain way, and I'm wanting them not to be free to do it any other way. Like, oh, this is so important to me that I need them to do and respond and be a certain way with this. You can feel yourself. Most people, many people, some people. I'm
Like the
noticing.
more specific we make it, the harder it is to control that. Versus, like if I go and I said like a lovely connection with people and I hope there's good food that I can eat, versus I want a very specific kind of food and I want people to compliment me a certain way. My mother, I think, imagines certain scripts for people. This is my story about her, but she often seems disappointed with interactions.
Yeah.
And I think she's decided how she wants it to go and it doesn't go exactly that way, but none of us know exactly what that is. So like there's a constant I think she feels very out of control a lot because she's imagining that a certain very specific thing will give her what she needs versus, oh, general, like I'd like to be with people that are honest and open with me and experience what that is. Dancing in a smaller uncertainty versus trying to rigidly control it.
Yeah. So the if you don't want it to be a certain way, then you're going to feel very unsettled, uncertain about things. So let's do some tapping on that.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want it to be this way,
Even though I don't want it to be
and I
this,
definitely don't want it to go that way,
and I definitely don't want it to go that way.
and it feels way too uncertain for my system.
It feels way too uncertain to my system.
What do I do with this energy?
What do I do with this energy?
Feel activated.
I feel activated.
I don't want it to be this way.
I don't want it to be this way.
It is this way.
It is this way.
I accept it or not.
Accept it or not.
What if I kept moving with it?
What if I kept moving with it?
Or moving away from it.
Or moving away from it?
Alone, or being with myself and my feelings.
I'm being with myself or my feelings.
Ugh. I don't want the next song to be that one.
I don't want the next song to be that one.
And I'm not the DJ here of everything.
I'm not the DJ of everything. I want to be the DJ of everything.
It's okay to pause.
It's okay to pause.
It's okay to take small movements.
It's okay to take small movements.
It's okay to reconnect with myself.
It's okay to reconnect with myself.
What matters to me?
What matters to me?
My well-being matters to me.
My well-being matters to me.
And I'm meant to move with things.
And I am meant to move with things.
I'm actually designed to move with things.
I'm actually designed to move with things.
I'm more resilient if I'm moving with it.
I'm more resilient if I'm moving with it.
Even standing still, there's movement.
Even standing still, there's movement.
There's supposed to be at least micro movements.
There's supposed to be at least micro movements.
Eyebrow. I'm human and I have frozen.
I'm human and I have frozen.
Side the eye. It's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
I'm human and I've frozen.
I'm human and I have frozen.
Under those. And it's very expensive.
And it's very expensive.
Chen, I wonder what it would be like if I danced more easily.
I wonder what it would be like if I danced more easily.
Hold on. Even if things surprise me.
Even if things surprise me.
Even if things repulse me.
even if things repulse me.
So, like, that's the right distance, right depth. It's like, oh, I don't want it to be this way. It's okay to take a step, movement. Even um, there's a lot that people who have to dance because, like, their nervous system, if they don't dance, they're really in rough shape. So, like, if something I don't like, I will literally do maybe a small version of that, like, you know, like, uh, allowing your body to express it with sound and movement. Sound is part of dance, in my world, um, and that allows you to um, your energy to keep moving. Um, when I have a client who has a lid on the amount of joy that they can handle because their energy doesn't know where to go. And that's sort of the like, it hits a point where it's like they don't know how to move with it. And the same thing happens. Like if I'm really sinking, I notice my daughter, she's 18 months old. If she has a disappointment, what is her natural thing to do? Like if she's regulated, she sinks to the floor and she goes into child's pose. And then she'll just kind of like do some movement. And then there's a moment of stillness and you can feel her whole body. It's not freeze, it's reconfiguration. And so I want to reflect that, like, she's teaching me, oh, yeah. and to be more in the dance of emotion and letting it express through something that maybe there's contexts where you can't do that. If I'm in that context where I really can't,
In the middle of your boss's office, maybe not the best
boss's office, yeah, some weird place where if you put yourself down in child's pose in the middle of the grocery store,
I'll call someone to take you away.
Yeah, clean up on aisle 7. Yeah, I will notice that my body, because it's very signaling to me, it still wants to move with that, and that's where if I go to bed and I haven't moved with some of the things that happen during the day, um, my body will tend to flop around. I won't necessarily sleep well. If I analyze it later, it's like, oh, I went into that posture, and oh, that's the fetal position. Yeah, I could put my hand under there and just kind of tucked in. Oh, I didn't move with that feeling. So
For many people, it's very hard to move with uncertainty. When we were very little, if we were flooded with the feelings that came up around uncertainty, but we might have been feeling rejected, scared, overwhelmed. There's all these feelings. We've learned to not be with those feelings and move them through. We kind of we can't just go into child's pose and process through. And one thing analogy I love that works for me, take what you like, is it's like going to the gym when we haven't gone to the gym in a while. We may not have the muscles for feeling those feelings, but we don't have to dump ourselves into the big, 30-gallon bucket of it. We can take a thimbleful and just feel it for a moment, take a break. Notice that we were able to feel it. We were able to process it with our breath, our move, our tapping, comfort from a friend, so that we can build up the muscles. The muscles build remarkably easily once we start showing our system that we're not going to die if we feel them. And when we were little, we often didn't have anyone to help us co-regulate. We didn't have anyone showing us how to deal with these emotions, so we didn't build up the muscles for doing this. So that feeling of uncertainty, someone wrote, is the only thing that can be certain of uncertainty. And I don't think that's true. We are uncertain of many things, but I'm pretty certain the sun is going to rise tomorrow. I'm pretty certain that, my next breath is going to be there. If there's too much uncertainty, Pavlov's dogs, there were additional experiments, and one where they started shocking the dogs every time they tried to eat. So the dogs couldn't find a safe time. It was a little bit random, but they couldn't find a safe time to eat. So the dogs stopped eating and died. So like we have to have a certain amount of uncertainty, and humans are also amazingly resilient at finding patterns and finding certainty in really awful situations. So I think that, like we can be certain of things besides uncertainty, and we can also learn to process the uncertainty much better so it doesn't have to be so hard on our system.
I'm certain I dislike Pavlov intensely, right there with you. Um, even though a part of me wants to be certain,
Even though a part of me wants to be certain.
and a part of me also sees that as black and white.
And part of me sees it as black and white.
What if certainty is on a spectrum?
What if certainty is on a spectrum?
Might be able to move with that.
I might be able to move with that.
Up ahead. I want it to be certain.
I want it to be certain.
Eyebrow. What if certainty is a spectrum?
What if certainty is a spectrum?
Side of the eye. What if I process it in that part of me?
What if I process it in that part of me?
Under the eye. And some things are really out on the certainty level, certainty scale. Yeah.
Some things are really out on the certainty scale.
Like my feeling toward Pavlov.
Like my feeling towards Pavlov.
Way out there on the certainty scale.
Way out there on the certainty scale.
And I do appreciate certainty.
And I do appreciate certainty.
Collarbone. And I appreciate curiosity.
And I appreciate curiosity.
Under the arm. I appreciate that things can change.
And I appreciate that things can change.
And I appreciate I have some influence over that too.
And I appreciate that I have some influence over that too.
I let my body move.
Let my body move.
In the ways that it wants to.
In the ways that it wants to.
And I'm just drawn to reiterate that there's a difference between a freeze and a still point. So with each breath, there's actually a still point where the inhale ends and the exhale begins, and where the exhale ends and the inhale begins. There are meditative practices and energy practices that have you just drop into that still point so that you're just aware of it, allow it to lengthen and shorten so that it feels like something that you're aware of. In the same way, even if you're doing the small dance where it's not something that, anyone would call a dance, it's allowing your body to, maybe it wants to go side by side. I'm doing more side by side for video than like my body wants to move like this side to side. And then a little bit back at a diagonal. And then a breath, it's been called like a recalibrating breath, regenerative breath, like, and sometimes after your body will shudder, shake, move, or do something, you can notice a still point. Your heart's still beating. There can even be breath, but it feels like there's a rhythm, the craniosacral rhythm. You can learn the skill of being able to feel for that. There are practitioners that help you with that. It is something that in the freeze response, like if I'm doing body work with someone and walking them through it, even the craniosacral rhythm will freeze and pause. It's a long still point. When you come out of that, there's movement, and the movement can be like a millimeter, but you start feeling like all the tissues of the body have started to move again. And I'm inviting this as part of the real skill of dancing with uncertainty, because uncertainty for humans, as soon as we reach a threshold, which for some people it's really close, and for other people, they feel pretty good, like their certainty levels an 8 or 9, a week out. They're pretty, and in everything that they're not certain about, like weather and, things like that, they're pretty resilient. They're like, oh, it'll be cold, it'll be rainy, it'll be sunny. Um, Now make it their wedding date, and like the lack of certainty about weather can hit them. And because this is a human thing, you can notice and even offer to people that you feel like, oh, they're not moving with this. Or if they're moving, it's dysregulated. Like, I don't know what to do. Like notice the things that we think of like, I don't know what to do. Notice how stiff I am. There's a reason for that. There are muscles that are supportive muscles. In order to move your shoulder, there are muscles that are activated to actually move the bone in the joint. And there's all these supportive muscles. Well, guess what? If you're uncertain, all the muscles start to try to be supportive and even splinting and becoming that bracing. And that's, again, from a biophysiological, emotional dynamic here. Shaking out your hands and then letting it change, not as a prescription, but as like, and then stretching your jaw if you want to play around with me, letting yourself shake, like shiver, if that's what comes up. These are things that reorient your nervous system so that uncertainty is not going to be quite as much of what your neurophysiology is tuned to in that moment. It's like, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm working, I can move. Well, being able to move feels more resilient than being frozen, big time. Like if you can move your pinky, your nervous system is like, okay, all right, yeah, we can come out of this. It may take me 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get back to, baseline, but if I can move my pinky, your nervous system gets the switch point. The primitive brain can get the switch point of, oh, it's okay. And you can then start bringing it back into what's certain now. Well, I just used this pen. I'm like 9.9 certain that if I write another word, like certain, look at that. It worked. And you know what? I got 2 others. And if you add and I've even got 2 others there, and I got some in the closet, like my level of certainty that I have something to write with, pretty high. I've got a stack of cards. For someone who's doing a workshop, having some certainty that they've got something to write with, it's regulating. And again, am I 100% certain that my Zoom is going to stick with me? No, 9.5. I think we're good. Do you see how I start tapping? As soon as I start thinking about an uncertainty, like my body will, and that's where you can practice this in little baby steps. You tune into something that doesn't feel completely certain, everything. And you can then tap and go like, it's okay. Yeah, it feels like an 8. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I'd love to see the eclipse tonight. Feels like a 3. And I'm okay. Do you see how you start calibrating that? Oh, I would really like this to happen. That I feel certain at like a 1. And it's okay. Yeah. You start teaching your being to shift from your primitive brain, where it's trying to find certain, uncertain, to a spectrum. And that is a real sign of resilience and thriving, is that your whole body can feel into it. Like, yeah, it felt like maybe a 6 yesterday that we were going to go to the dance, and maybe this morning it ripened to an 8. As soon as I talked to my partner and saw where she was, guess what? It's like a 9, 9.5. I paid for the tickets. Felt like a 9.5. And what if we didn't make it? It's okay. Yeah. So we like to take 7-minute breaks in the workshop, and we're around that time. Is there some?
Can I just add one point before, as we're setting them off?
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of times things that are very certain, we tune out. We don't pay attention to anymore. So it can seem like things are more uncertain. But right now, none of us are probably paying attention to our heartbeat. It's doing its all on its own. Our liver's cleaning our blood, our kidneys doing its thing, like our pancreas does whatever a pancreas does. I'm not actually sure. But there's a lot of things that are happening that we're very certain of. The electricity coming to our home, the fact that we're temperature controlled, that we have Zoom right now, that it's working. So we can seem like we're in a world that's very uncertain when we're actually having a lot of things happening and we just kind of tune them out. So just as you go to break, just maybe notice a few things that feel certain to you that you kind of forgot to appreciate. Like, oh, maybe things are more certain than I thought about. Just something to give some counterpoint to.
So if you're watching this on the recording, hi, welcome. And we invite you to take a quick break here too. Take care of whatever you need, let things integrate, see what comes up for you. And we'll be back at, welcome back. What are you noticing, Kathy, as we tune into this together, even reading the chat?
Mm-hmm. I think that for a lot of us, dancing with the uncertainty is not a concept we've been brought up with. I think a lot of us were taught that if we're not certain, I mean, kind of our society says confidence means you're supposed to be confident. You're supposed to be, you make it happen. And yet life is not like that. I've watched a lot of my more confident friends kind of, life eventually catches them and they don't know how to deal with it because they just kind of plowed through. And even if we can make a lot of things happen, I think we're powerful beings. Sometimes we're making them happen at the expense of others' choice or consent. I know I did that a lot in the past, and I feel bad about that. I'm trying to live a life that's much more like, do you want to dance with me versus you are going to dance with me? And I think as we get more experience, especially when we're mindful, like everyone here, like I love the fact that you're here. A lot of people go through their life trying to be more certain. Someone mentioned addictions, like, oh, I'm going to go back to that one substance I know I can get the response I need to. I couldn't get it from my parents. I couldn't get it from life. I'm going to get it from gambling or drinking or cocaine or chocolate or whatever it is, shopping. I'm going to try that will give me the dopamine I need to feel okay. But then I need more and more and more of it to get the same level. So I think when we can be with ourselves, that there's going to be times where we feel pretty uncertain and times when we feel pretty certain, in breath, out breath kind of thing. Like, okay, this feels good. Okay, that feels kind of good too. And realizing that some of the things that we want to be certain about right now that feel so important may not matter a year from now. My mother has, and I pick on her gently because she does things that are very easy for people to relate to, I think. Whenever she finds something good, she'll buy 2 of it because she's afraid that it won't be there later. So I am 100% certain she has 2 VHS players in her house. How many of us ever need a VHS player? It's just something she wanted to be secure and certain on that. She wanted to, so if we're very hungry, we feel like we want to eat food forever. And then we eat some food and then we're like, oh, I'm kind of done with food. I'm so tired. I want to sleep forever. I want a really comfy bed. It's great to have that. But after I've slept for a while, I might be ready to go do something else. So what we feel most focused on for wanting or certainty around may not be something that's really important in the long run. When I go to a new event, people I don't know, my exit strategy, having some snacks with me, telling Rick where I'm going, like all those things seem really important. And yet if I've gone 2 or 3 times, I know some people, I know the container they hold, I might not need any of those things. So even what we're uncertain about is uncertain. It may be uncertain right now, but not uncertain tomorrow or the next time we go. Or So I like that Rick's talking about being with the body, noticing what we're feeling in our body in that moment, and then giving it a little bit of movement, a little bit of expression in that uncertainty. And I love the idea again of building up the muscle. Can I tolerate this feeling for a moment? It's not actually hurting me. And I'm not talking about wallowing in it forever. I'm talking about experiencing it a little bit and teaching our body how to process it, how to like, oh, this is a feeling. It doesn't feel great, but I'm not being harmed. Is there wisdom in this? Is there an asking? How can I mine this experience for oh, I'm really craving a soft bed. Well, is there something I can do about that? I sleep almost every night. So maybe I can get softer pillows for my bed and remind myself that I'm building. Someone talked about building trust with themselves. Remind myself, hey, look, I got the pillows to give myself this comfort and letting myself enjoy them. So that even in the uncertainty of it, I can build in comfort and ease, and I can mine the experiences to find what would help me feel more fulfilled or more joyous.
I'd like to do a tapping on how we're conditioned to, and thank you, person in the chat, conditioned to equate certainty with safety. Or, and also, I keep getting this picture of being in school. And if I was certain of the answer to a question and I was right, it reinforced that, oh, if I'm certain I'm safe and I'm going to be rewarded and not punished, and there's this sort of wicked conditioning that happens, that the deconditioning of that is like part of freedom for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I was conditioned.
Even though I was conditioned.
To be certain.
To be certain.
Because certain meant I was safe.
Because certain meant I was safe.
And I wouldn't be punished.
And I wouldn't be punished.
And safety and not being punished are two sort of different things.
And safety and not being punished are two sort of different things.
Top of the head. I was conditioned to be certain.
I was conditioned to be certain.
Eyebrow. You were weak if you weren't certain.
You were weak if you weren't certain.
Side of the eye. There are still people saying that.
There's still people saying that.
Under the eye. There are certaintists everywhere.
There are certaintists everywhere.
Under those. They're so certain.
They're so certain.
Chin. It makes me feel very uncertain.
It makes me feel very uncertain.
I don't feel as certain as they do.
Because I don't feel as certain as they do.
And that does not feel safe.
That does not feel safe.
Of it. I was so conditioned to be certain.
I was so conditioned to be certain.
It's the certaintists that really know what's going on.
It's the certaintists that really know what's going on.
Right?
Right? A lot of times they're just not seeing the whole picture. They're just looking at the parts that are very clear to them and holding on really tight to that.
Yeah, I'm so like, yeah, if you had met me at 16 years old, I was so certain.
Yeah.
I'd really been conditioned that I didn't pre-Google, you could make a lot of assertions with confidence and certainty. That was not correct. But it was harder to check on somebody. Nobody carried the Encyclopedia Britannica around with them. You might have it at home. They might ding you the next day. But yeah, so there's that.
Well, and I think of people that are very, very certain often aren't very curious. There are some people that can be curious as well, but generally they know, and so there's no question about what else is there.
Yeah. Certainty is protection for a lot of people.
Certainty is protection for a lot of people.
Eyebrow. They seem so certain.
They seem so certain.
Side of the eye. I don't look at it that way.
I don't look at it that way.
Under the eye. My gut doesn't feel it that way.
My gut doesn't feel it that way.
No, it doesn't feel so certain.
It doesn't feel so certain.
Chin. What if that's better for me?
What if that's better for me?
Hold on, but they seem so safe in their certainty.
They feel so safe in their certainty.
My being does not work that way.
My being does not work that way.
I'm pretty certain I don't work that way.
I'm pretty sure I don't work that way.
I see a lot more of the spectrum.
I see a lot more of the spectrum.
It's hard sometimes.
It's hard sometimes.
Empathetic people, right? As soon as you're certain and you state a certainty and you run up against another human being who their whole core does not see it that way. That's not their lived reality. That's not their intuition. All of a sudden, your certainty is like, what do I do with this? I run up against, I'm an empath. I have that. I have that. It's alive in me. And I run into somebody and they're certain they're what's clear to them. Let's just call it clarity. Their clarity is different from my clarity. What do I do? I'm going to dance with the uncertainty because I know that on any topic, pick any topic, and if I if I launch into more certainty that isn't really personal, um, that the superpowers that, and I'll call them that because they're sometimes have real repercussions to be as sensitive. Um, they make it impossible for me to be a certaintist that um, asserts their clarity over other people because I know what clarity feels like. I can feel it in you. I can feel it in someone else. It's not wishy washy. It's just like, oh, now there's two people and we have different clarity. Oh, now there's three people. Dang, we have three clarities and they're not exactly the same.
Sometimes people are really certain, but it's not mine.
And we have we have this big group of people here, and everything that I say, some people it lands like yeah, and other people like huh, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Now I like that. I like that when something that feels clear to me is reflected back. I I believe that dancing with uncertainty allows me to acknowledge that, oh, there's a resonance. We're actually maybe feeling the same backbeat. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're jiving together. But what about that person over there that's going, which was me earlier today out on the grass, not in rhythm with us? Are they like off? Does that hit me like, um, I'm now. So part of our work here of dancing with uncertainty is to allow more emotional freedom, allow more clarity. Um, and no, I've got boundaries around people asserting their or dominating my own clarity with their own. It's like, yeah, I'm going to dance over there. Um, and for resiliency and thriving, that's where it's like, okay, oh, that's landing. It's taking something from me. I was starting to feel pretty certain, and now, and it's okay. Do you see what I'm doing? It's like, oh, I was feeling so clear, and then I talked to them, and now I'm aware that there's a clarity in me and a different clarity in them, and okay, you're you're dancing to a little bit of a different backbeat. Maybe the melody is different. The lyrics, your your lyrics are different than mine. You ever sung a song that you were sure that that word was that, and then you discover it wasn't?
I bet money on things.
I sang that at the top of my lungs, and that was not what that song was about.
Well, I think that's one of the things that you're saying, Rick. It really strikes me as there's a gift in uncertainty. I mean, one, I often find new things about myself when I go to events or things. I'm like, I'm not certain is this going to be good for me? Is this going to be fun? And I try to stay, like, I don't, just like when we're stretching and we don't want to damage something, but like I can be stretched and moderately uncomfortable and I can decide if I want to repeat something. But when we let go of some of that certainty, that the stuff we're holding on to really tight, we often discover new possibilities and new information, new avenues of ourselves. And so I think that's one of the saddest things about trauma is that people, they will often keep shrinking their comfort zone to stay smaller and smaller so they don't experience that uncertainty, because the edge of the comfort zone, things happen that we don't know about. And I also believe that magic happens outside our comfort zone. So if we can, as we're healing trauma, we can also kind of build up our resiliency around, okay, this feels uncomfortable, but I'm actually safe. How can I baby step my way into that and learn to trust myself, learn that I'll get myself out of something that's not good. If something gets really bad, and I sometimes have worry thoughts where if I'm going to do something new, my brain will, like, what if this happens, or this person's rude, or they won't listen to my boundaries, and I'll like spin a little. And I'm like, worst case, I take my key, I'm going to keep the keys and I'm going to leave, and they can figure out how to get home. So like I'm trying to build trust with myself in handling this uncertainty.
Would you lead us on a tapping of the impact of trauma on on a craving for certainty?
Yeah.
I'd like to just take that and notch it down a little bit more for me. Um, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in wanting some trauma to still have less impact on that craving for certainty.
Karate chop. I have some open wounds left behind.
I have some open wounds left behind.
My body knows I shouldn't be too adventuresome with open wounds.
And my body does know that I shouldn't be too adventuresome with open wounds.
And I'd like to build trust with myself again.
And I'd like to build trust with myself again.
And help myself find the edges of what I can do.
And help myself find the edges of things that I can do.
While I heal these open wounds.
While I also heal these open wounds.
On top of that, some of these wounds are from very long ago.
Oh, yeah. Some of these wounds are from very long ago.
Eyebrow, I can have compassion.
I can have compassion.
Side of the eye, it does take a lot of energy to heal these old wounds.
And it does take a lot of energy to heal these old wounds.
Under the eye, I can modify what I do to a certain extent.
I can modify what I do to a big extent.
Under the nose, to let my body heal these old wounds.
To let my body heal these old wounds.
Chin, to let my mind and my heart heal from the trauma.
Let my mind and my heart heal from the trauma.
Collarbone, and I might be able to have baby adventures right now.
And I am having baby adventures right now.
Under there, I want a Zoom call tapping with these people.
I want a Zoom call tapping with these people.
Top of the head, if you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said, no way.
Well, there's lots of things that I would have said no way to.
Eyebrow, what if it's okay to explore a little bit?
What if it's okay to explore a little bit?
Side of the eye, I can pay attention to my body.
I can pay attention to my body.
Under the eye, I can have clear exit strategies.
And I can have clear exit strategies.
Under the nose, I can have recovery time with friends.
I can have recovery time with friends.
Chin, and I might be able to explore more than I think.
And I might be able to explore more than I think.
Collarbone, what if I can heal and have baby adventures?
Heal and have baby adventures.
Under the arm, and have a lot of compassion for those old traumas.
And have a lot of compassion for those old traumas.
Top of the head, while I heal and build trust with myself again.
While I heal and have trust in myself again.
Just take a deep breath. And I think a lot of trauma occurs when we face something we think we don't have the resources to deal with. So there is a break in the trust in that we can handle the world that comes to us. So there's often a feeling like I can't trust myself to handle what's out there. So I think that's the ripping that we experience with trauma. Not trusting other people, certainly that's part of it as well. But I think one of the most core wound part of it is that we break trust with ourselves. And there's nothing wrong when we're 2, 3, 5, 47, whatever, we were doing our best. And there can be repair. We can repair that old wound.
So bringing it back to dancing with uncertainty, let's say that you're thinking about doing something. Again, how are we conditioned to think it through, to plot, plan, analyze? So there's movement, there's dance, but it's all neurons, right? Or maybe some micro expressions in your face. If we want to dance with uncertainty, you could say, you know, I'm out of here, and just dance your way out of the room. No, you're not at the party. But what did you do? You exercised your system to say, I'm out of here, to make a decision and kind of move with it. And you see this in spontaneous dance. Like someone will decide, like, I'm not going to dance on rhythm. I'm going to dance a counterpoint. And they just start doing it. And then you get used to it. You can grab the keys and say, these are my keys. They go to my car, and I'm taking my car. And I have an app on my phone where I can call a variety of resources to give me support, to get me home, to get me out of there. The micro steps, the baby adventures can be like you're starting to feel nervous about. So this was the first dance I'd been to, a big group, 100 people, like, oh, haven't been in a group of 100 people for 2 years, just not. Not out of fear, but out of real conscious choice of what's right for me. And as I arrived, I saw some people I knew. And because we were doing this workshop, and this has been really conscious for me, what I did was I kind of made a soft gesture of acknowledgement. And then I went within again, and I noticed that I was more still. My body, the uncertainty of like, do I go over and say hi? Well, it's a nonverbal space. Do I give hugs? I don't know where they are. Like, was I certain that he wanted a hug from me? 0.5? So the first thing I did was I paused. So pause, notice what was happening in my body. Oh, the uncertainty, uncomfortable. This is someone I like. Hugged him a lot. Really beautiful being. And the uncertainty was really like my level of certainty was very, very low. And so rather than push it, I breathed. I tuned into the earth. I tuned into the music. I wasn't moving with the music. I just was allowing my body to move. And then as I looked over, he had taken a few steps in my direction, was also kind of tuning into what was right. And we saw, and then, my daughter came over and I picked her up, and there was some more movement, and we eventually ended up hugging, and, he even danced with Adira a bit. So you see, like dancing with uncertainty, another person I did that with, and that was it. It was just an acknowledgement. They went off into their own world. I think we had one other short acknowledgement. This is someone that was a friend that I used to go to parties with and things like that. But that was it. The uncertainty was also like profound uncertainty, but by dancing with it, letting it unfold. And I believe in pre-paving. Like there's a difference between planning and kind of strategizing, which I can't stop my brain from doing. But pre-paving is like, okay, I'm going to see people that I haven't seen in 2 years. I'm going to have response, reaction. Some people don't even know I have a new baby, not so much a baby anymore. There's going to be all those energies. And the other day, I just let my body stretch and move while I tuned into those things. And what that did is it allowed the things that I was resilient around tend to move through. As soon as you're moving your body and you're tuned to something like, oh, I may see that person. I may see that person. That probably is going to be awkward. And it was. So, but if I'm moving my body through it, I notice my own resiliency. The one thing that I paused with and I couldn't start moving again until I had a strategy was, what if I really need to leave 20 minutes into this? I have not been around 100 people. I've, it's outside. I have no idea what's going to be going on. It could be too hot for me. All the other, you see, like uncertainties, lore. And I needed to pre-pave with my partner the agreement. Hey, to be honest with you, I haven't done this. You've been around a lot more people recently in the last year than I have. I don't know how my nervous system is going to react. Are you okay if we leave after 15 minutes? And we had, two strategies. One, I would go and come back. She would text me when they were done, and I would come back and pick them up, or that we would all go together, and that she would be the one to make the decision about where the kids were and how everything was. But I could make the decision, fully empowered to just go. And I didn't even have to, like, I could pick up my stuff, and if she came back and my stuff was gone, and I said I would text her when I was in the car. Did I need that? No. But my body, because I paused and tried to move with it, it was like, no. Now, that feels a little vulnerable to share that with all the work I do emotionally, I'm still someone that might have to leave a dance that I paid for with my family and surrounded by good people with really great boundaries. Like, this is a really safe space. Like, for me to say that, and I'm sharing it because the only reason I've been able to go and do these ecstatic dances and contact improv and everything else is that I have those agreements with myself. That the dancing with uncertainty goes with allowing myself to be where I am and to move with it. If I'm in a place where it's like not right for me, I can move with it. I went out to parties and just walked out after 5 minutes because everyone was just in a different space. And I never would have gone to another party if I'm picturing the party. I never would have gone to another party with that group of people ever if I had forced myself to stay. And the good news is because I gave myself the out, I was able to go next time earlier before the energy changed, dancing with it. And so I hope that this is helpful to you in honoring, like, hey, I've got a nervous system. Hey, I'm uncertain about people right now. Hey, how uncertain how my neurophysiology emotions are going to pick up, what they're going to pick up on, who's going to be there, what's the energy going to be. And if I give myself permission to pause, tune in, make a movement, to dance with the uncertainty until I'm like, okay, it's been one of the most life-changing things in my life to move with it that way.
I love that you let yourself be with what was true rather than what you thought should be. And I often do the same thing. I'm like, I should be okay being here. I'm not okay. What do I want to do? Because we often paint shoulds on ourselves. We decide where we're supposed to be, and that doesn't let us be in the moment. And I think that uncertainty of like, how will I be? How am I right now? That's a real gift we can give ourselves. As someone said, that's fierce boundary setting or something like that. I thought I love that. Like, okay, yes, I can honor what my body and my system needs in the moment, not try to force myself through, not trying to make myself be what I was certain I would be in this situation. There is a gift we can give ourselves when we do that. And I think we can also model that for other people because so many people are trying to live up with what they should do, holding on. Mm-hmm. And when we say, this is not meeting my needs right now. I went to a dinner with a bunch of friends the other day. The first restaurant was closed. We went to a second one. I'm a bigger person. The picnic benches were really close. It was like not going to be good for my body. And I just said, this won't work for me. And I'm just going to go and get dinner someplace else. And I had the shame, like, oh, I should be able to fit. I was the one who initiated the dinner. They all had a lovely time and I didn't make a big deal of it, but I just told them like, this is not going to work for me, and I'm going to take care of myself. And I was really proud, like that rebuilt trust with myself, that I'm not going to try to sit there and be incredibly uncomfortable. Um, I'm going to honor what my body needs, what my system needs. So if you can give that to yourself and then dance with the feelings that come up around it, be with them as much as you can, they start processing through. And I think that I often, pointing fingers back at me, I think this bad feeling will last forever. I feel uncertain. I feel disappointed. I feel whatever. I'm like, oh, this is forever. We can't. Our systems don't sustain that. It's only when we push them down like beach balls that they're pinging us. If we can just process them, feel them, they pass, and then we have another feeling. It might be happy. We can just be with whatever's arising in the moment, like a contact improv.
Thank you all for being here. This continues. We have the Thriving Now Circle. There's a one-time membership on a gliding scale, as well as monthly options. You can go to thrivingnow.com/circle. Our open calls, we engage directly with people. It's not recorded, so that opens up a different kind of space for folks. The I want to acknowledge that I know many of you and some of your stories we've seen in the 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 chat. We were trained to stay. We were taught that being respectful meant if you were paired up with a dance partner that you didn't want to be with, that there wasn't an option. The dance is with your nervous system, with your mind, with the heart, that what matters to you, starting there with that clarity, emotional freedom. I want to be dancing with people that want to be dancing with me. And if they dance differently, great. There's a freedom that comes from checking in. And I want to acknowledge that already you are a vibrational leader in this area because of the many thousands of people in the Thriving Now community, which already, because they think about emotions as something that we can have some agency over, like our energy and safety, respect, freedom matter. To dance with uncertainty, what you've just practiced and what you've been practicing puts you in an opportunity to allow your vibration to influence and invite others. If I've noticed that everyone's become very stiff because everyone's uncertain about what to say or where to go with a conversation, I might just start a gentle rocking, ground myself, do the things that I know, and even acknowledging, yeah, it's hard to be certain what to do here or what to say to that. And you'll notice that people are like, oh, thank goodness somebody spoke to it or somebody is moving to it. It's not a requirement. And if you're doing this for yourself, notice in the we spaces that as soon as you start the movement yourself, other people's primitive brain through their resonance will often start changing. It will feel less like a trauma is happening and that healing can start. And we can be moving with this and resilient with it together. Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. Appreciate the dance.
Mm-hmm. Our next workshop, anchoring the positive. And that'll be toward the end of the month. And yeah, it'll be out there on thrivingnow.center where we can engage around this, our community center. It's free for you to participate. We welcome your wisdom, your insights, how you apply this, what you notice, all the good things. sharing. And thank you so much for everyone in the comments and who's tapped along and been here today. Bye for now.